So hello, and welcome to this week's edition of Crunching Chaos. Jay and I are back in person, and across the table from me is Jay.
Hi.
My name is Nick, and we are getting back on track with our series talking about the houses. But we're going to change things up a bit.
Okay, go on. Tell me more about these changes.
So originally we were talking about commons and uncommons, the ones we liked. We're actually going to change focus a little bit, and we're going to specifically talk more about the commons, and then we're going to talk about the rares and uncommons that stick out to us that we really enjoy.
Okay.
The reason why this is, there's several reasons. First of all, so I was looking through deck lists, and if you look at the majority of deck lists, this is of course not all of them. I have exceptions to this rule. Half to 2/3 of your deck are generally commons.
Yeah.
Uncommons and rares make up a small portion. There are also only in each house 16 different commons. The same for uncommons, and then 20 rares. So the commons you're going to see a lot. Because if even half your deck, half of a house in your deck is commons, that's 6 out of 16.
Mm-hmm.
So super saturated. And then uncommons, you're generally going to get like 2 or 3, and out of 16, that means you're not going to see them very often. Mm-hmm. And then rares, there's 20 rares. If you have 1, maybe 2 in a deck, you're going to see those so rare.
So I guess they all live up to their names then.
They do. Okay. Which is what Richard Garfield's original intention was. That's what he really originally wanted for Magic. That's what he wanted for this game. He wanted the rarity to actually dictate how often you actually see them in a game, either in your deck or when you're playing.
So for those who don't know, how is that different from like Magic?
So with Magic, because you have what Richard Garfield did not anticipate, what he did not intend was the secondary market. Yeah. He wanted people to open booster packs, build decks from what they opened, and rare cards, you might have 1 or 2 of, you never have a full playset. But the secondary market, and the way the game changed, it's that you just buy whatever you don't have.
Right.
And of course, with Keyforge, you can't do that because your deck is solid. It's solidified. You cannot change it.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, the other reason why is because this actually happened after I had made this decision to change things, but we haven't recorded a house episode in a while, is with the new set. The announcement of the new set is that some cards are not going to change and some cards are going to change. They're going to reprint some cards, but the majority of the cards that they're going to change are going to be commons. So we're going to go through this series, and then we'll probably do the series again for the new commons.
Right.
We'll talk about
in the new set. Yep.
Yes, for the new set. We'll talk about what's changed, what that does to the house, what they kept, maybe why they kept it.
Okay.
And hopefully bait and switch goes away.
Oh.
We'll talk more about bait and switch when we talk about shadows.
Anyways, okay. Yeah, cool. Cool.
So today we're going to talk about house logos.
Yep.
And for logos, we talked about Dis and how Dis is a support house, but it's mostly about controlling your opponent. You control your opponent in every aspect with the different cards you have.
Yeah.
Logos is the complete opposite. Okay. Logos is all about supporting you and your deck.
Yes.
And it does this through card draw and archiving.
Yes.
And if you look at the commons, options you have for card drawing are, we won't talk about that card just yet. We'll talk about that card last.
Okay.
We'll start with, you have Wild Wormhole, which gains you an amber, play the top card of your deck. Yeah. You have Library of Babel, Artifact, action, draw a card. You have Mother, which lets you draw an extra card each turn. Dr. Bookton, which is the same thing as Library of Babel, but on a creature. It's a 5-power creature. You reap and you draw a card. What else?
The Adventurer there, right? You fight and draw a card.
Oh, Quixo, that's right. Quixo the Adventurer, which is actually what's the word I want to use? The artwork is inspired by one of the designers of the game.
Oh.
And then the big card drawing card is Library Access. So Library Access is you play it, and for the remainder of the turn, every time you play a card, you draw a card. Mm-hmm. This one is one that really facilitates combos. This is what makes the OTK deck work, because you play this, you play it with Phase Shift, which allows you to play a card outside of your house, a non-logos card, and that lets you just churn through your deck until you get like a key charge or a Chodohazi, something that lets you forge a key immediately. You're looking at me like...
Yeah, well, I was just thinking. So explain that again. So you get library.
How the OTK combo works?
Yeah, please.
So the main one, the more popular one is, so you get Nepentine Seed. This makes the combo.
Well, let's start backwards. I'm sorry. What are the houses generally in this deck?
So you can do it with Untamed and Logos, or you can do it with Logos and Mars.
Okay.
So
and
that one's more difficult.
What was the acronym you read? What were the letters?
OTK, one turn kill.
Okay.
We've never talked about that, have we? What actually OTK means?
Yeah,
one turn kill.
I'm just walking through this for everybody here, myself included.
So the more popular one out of Untamed is you have Nepentine Seed. It's an artifact. You can, as an Omni ability, you can sacrifice it to return a card from your discard pile to your hand. So you get that in play. Then you play Library Access.
Okay.
This lets you draw, every time you play a card, you get to draw a card.
Yes.
You use Nepentine Seed to return Library Access back to your hand. You play Library Access, you draw a card, and now for the remainder of the turn, you get to draw 2 cards every time you play a card. So now you just start dumping Logos cards, gaining Amber, all the Amber you need, and eventually you get a Phase Shift and a Key Charge in your hand. You play Phase Shift, draw 2 cards. You play Key Charge, you forge a key on the spot, and then you draw 2 cards. And what this allows you is having 2 library accesses active allows you to just continually keep drawing through your deck. So you're going to draw through your deck, you're going to play those 2 cards, you're going to use up your deck, you're going to shuffle up, and you're going to start all over. And you're going to gain a bunch of Amber, you're going to get a Phase Shift, you're going to get a Key Charge, and you're going to forge another key instantly. Understand?
I do. How often? But aren't you getting all the other house cards in your hand as well?
Yes.
Okay, so you're basically, your hand is growing with all the other house cards, but really the main goal is to keep drawing to get the Logos cards, to keep playing them, and then eventually what you're doing is you've drawn out all the other house cards, so you should just be drawing Logos at this point, playing them, putting them in your graveyard.
And you've drawn all the cards that aren't Logos, so the next time you cycle through your deck, it's just Logos cards and the Key Charge and the Nepentine Seed.
So now, have you played against a deck or played this deck before? Have you seen anybody or? Okay.
I've heard of people who had it.
Okay, so the question that I have then is, what turn are we talking? Because that doesn't seem like that would happen on turn 1 very often.
Turn 2.
Turn 2.
You could do it on turn 2 because you have to play the Nepentine Seed.
And how many library access do you have in your deck?
Just 1.
Just 1.
You have to have the right cards in your hand.
Yeah.
And you need to have a library access and a Nepentine Seed in your starting hand, or you play Untamed, you drop the Nepentine Seed, play out all your Untamed, and then draw the library access.
Oh, okay.
So you can do it. You can definitely do it on turn 2.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. It seems like you could do it on turn 2, but there's a lot of cards in your deck, so it may not play out that way, right? Like it may not play out till turn 4 or 5.
Well, think about it. So let's go through it. So
I know we're supposed to talk about Logos, but now this is very interesting to me. So
turn 1, you play the Nepentine Seed.
If you have it.
If you have it. This is only if you actually can do it on turn 2. But realistically, this is going to happen at any point during the game.
Yeah.
But to clear it up for you, you play the Nepentine Seed, and then let's say you play 2 Untamed cards.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is your turn 1, but you're going second. So you can just dump out your hand.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You could still do it on turn 1, but you could only play the Nepentine Seed and you don't draw any cards. So in that case, you would have to have the library access already in your hand. So let's say you play out the Nepentine Seed, 2 other Untamed cards, you draw, you have the library access. So the next turn, you play the library access.
Yes.
And then you immediately Nepentine Seed, play the second library access. You're going to draw a card off of that second library access, and now you're drawing 2 cards.
So Nepentine Seed is Omni?
Yes.
Okay.
I said that too.
I know, just reiterating.
You're just
I'm
clarifying.
trying to understand it all, walk it through step by step. So that I think, well, what I'm trying to do is if I see it or if a listener sees it, if they have anything to like, because there is, blow up artifact stuff or like take an artifact as yours.
Oh yeah, if you
to
see
slow
an
this
Neptune
down,
seed, you can just stop it. But
Yeah.
like, they might not even have it. Neptune seed is really worth blowing up regardless.
right?
Being
yeah.
able to return any card from your discard pile at any time is really powerful.
Yeah.
But yeah, unfortunately, artifact controllers at a super premium,
Yeah.
and very few of them actually destroy.
Yeah, it's more like return and
There's the return, but that's also on an artifact. That's on a sanctum. There is my favorite, which is Poltergeist, which is use it and then return it. Granted, now some of the cards, then there's one in Logo specifically, it's called Remote Access. So you actually use an opponent's artifact. So in the case of the Neptune Seed, part of the cost of using the Neptune Seed is you sacrifice it. So that's a way to get rid of it.
yeah. Isn't there I thought isn't there a creature in Shadow that you use an artifact and then destroy it, or is that Dis?
So in Shadows, that's Dis.
Yeah, Dis.
That's
Dis.
Poltergeist.
Yep.
In Shadows, you can steal one with Nick Lifter.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact name. You just take it. I love that card because
Yeah.
you don't have to give it back, which is usually how cards like that work in other games. You steal it until that card leaves play, and then when that card leaves play, you give it back. No, you just take it forever.
Right.
Okay, so back on track. So you got you sacrifice your Neptune Seed, you play your second library access, you draw a card. So now you play whatever other Logos cards are in your hand that aren't phase shift. You're drawing 2 cards.
Okay.
So now you've drawn just that turn. You've drawn 3 extra cards off of one other Logos card. And now, realistically, statistically, if you have even 2 more Logos cards in your hand, and that's drawing a total of 2, 4, 6, 7 in a turn, you're going to draw more Logos cards. And you're going to play more Logos cards. And you just got to get through your deck once, and then you're just drawing nothing but Logos cards.
And then that is the other part of this is the key charge.
Yep. Okay. Then once you have enough amber, once you have 7 amber, assuming your cards cost your keys cost 6, and the phase shift, you play the phase shift. You draw 2 cards. You play the way phase shift works. So the way phase shift reads is you can play in a non-Logos card this turn. So you can play the phase shift to draw 2, and you don't have to immediately play the key charge.
Yeah.
You can just keep drawing. And then at some point you play the key charge, you forge a key for free, and then you draw 2 cards, and then you just keep going.
Yeah.
And eventually you draw through your deck. You recycle your deck. You start over again. You get the phase shift, the key charge, and you just go.
So it's interesting. It seems like this is common enough that people are talking about it. So there's got to be multiple of these decks out there.
Absolutely.
Then. Yeah, that's interesting.
There was one a local player had, and he sold it for $380.
Yeah.
Something ridiculous. But there's other ways to do it, because you can do it basically with any card that allows you to forge a key from that card. So like, is it key? It's key charge. I don't remember all the names, but each house has one.
Yeah.
Granted, it won't work with Epic Quest out of Sanctum.
Right.
But yeah, that's your TK
Okay.
ammo. That's the thing that Logos is probably most famous for.
Yeah, it's just interesting. Yeah. Okay.
So that's the card drawing aspect of Logos.
Yeah.
The other side of Logos is archiving, which I've been saying since the beginning of the game. Archiving is the most powerful thing you can be doing in the game. Granted, the way I archive has changed drastically, because archiving is at a super premium. There are not a lot of cards that archive that you can do it repeatedly. Most of them are one-time effects that allow you to archive a card.
Yeah.
So, for instance, you have lab work, which is action, gain an amber, play, archive a card. There's sloppy lab work. Same thing, except you discard a card and archive a card. I think that's an uncommon. Yeah, it's an uncommon. And then what else in here archives? In the common slot, you have the I can never say his name right. The archivist, the 3-power Reap archive a card. This card I loved. It was
the Ganymede or whatever.
Ganymede.
Ganymede. Yeah.
This card I loved when I first started playing, because I would have turns where I would start with him, and if my opponent didn't destroy him, I would just keep choosing Logos just so I keep archiving cards. And this was always my strategy. I would archive one entire house, and then that would lead to thinning out my hand for the other houses and then lead to a big blowout tournament of that one house that I was archiving.
Yeah.
These days, though, the way I use archiving is because it's at a premium, I'm usually only archiving 1 or 2 cards a game. And normally what it is it's the very powerful, very situational cards. I rarely archive just to get, like, if I have one of a single house, to get it out of my hand, to get it out of the way. That happens sometimes if there's nothing powerful, but I will archive a bait and switch.
Yeah.
For instance, I will archive burn the stockpile out of Brobnar.
Yeah.
Those things that very powerful when you can pull them off. They stop your opponent from forging a key. They gain you amber. Things like that, I will archive so they don't clog up my hand. So I can wait for that perfect opportunity to play it.
Yeah. I think for me too, it's the same thing. Like more late game cards where I'm like, okay, this is situational and it could come up, and I don't want to keep drawing it and putting it back. So I'm like, I'm just going to archive it, and if this comes up, then I'll know where it is. Type thing.
Any amber control where you're already ahead of your opponent, so you don't want to play it, but you don't want to get rid of it because it's powerful.
Yeah.
So that is the main, for me, that's the main purpose for logos. From there, in the common slot, you have a lot of at common for archiving is the lab work and the archivist, and that's really it. From there, you have a lot of more like utility cards.
Yeah.
So you have Twin Bolt Emission, which is removal, deal 2 damage to 2 creatures. You have the interesting Fogify type effects from the card that actually is Fogify, that 1 amber, you stop your opponent from fighting. There's Scramble Storm, which is your opponent can't play actions the next turn.
Mm-hmm.
So there are ways to control your opponent as well, but for the most part, Logos is about supporting you.
Yeah, and right, in a number of ways, right? Because, for instance, like in the common slot for Dr. Escotera, when you play, you gain 1 for each forge key your opponent has. So it's more like what you were saying. There's a lot of drawing, but then there's a lot of catch up stuff too with Amber. So the Dexter, the bat drone stealing and capturing, and so there's a lot of catch up stuff.
Yeah, like little control effects.
Yeah,
like these little effects on creatures.
Yeah. I like the term catch up with them because they always feel like, because control is more like Shadow's thing. This is more like, okay, my opponent's running up the amber. He's got a couple keys or 1 key. Okay, how am I going to catch up to this now? Type of thing.
It's more like supporting you.
Yeah.
It's giving you time and giving you the cards you need to win the game.
Yeah.
Now you brought up Dexter. I can't stand Dexter. A lot of people like him, but he is so not. He does not fall in line with Logos most of the time. So Dexter is a 3-power creature. When you play him, you capture an amber.
Yep.
Now, when he's destroyed, you put him on top of your deck.
I hate him too. I'm with you, because you're always putting him back on top of your deck because your opponent destroys him usually because he's only 3 power and he captured an amber. So they're like, okay, and then you got to draw him again. It's just like, I forgot.
Which goes completely against Logos, which is trying to draw cards.
Right.
And trying to cycle through your deck faster. There are interesting combos you can do with him. Like you can... if you play a Neutron Shark, which is, we'll talk about, it's a 1 power, let me find the wording here. 1 power, destroy an enemy creature or artifact, and an enemy creature and artifact, and a friendly creature or artifact, and then you discard the top card of your card, as long as it's not Logos, right? Yeah, as long as it's not a Logos card, you repeat the effect.
Yeah.
So there's a weird thing where you can play the Neutron Shark. You can destroy itself to stop the effect from repeating. You just play Neutron Shark and it basically acts like a removal spell. You just destroy a creature. Or you can, if you have Dexter in play, you can play the Neutron Shark, destroy your Dexter. It goes on the top of your deck, which then you discard the Dexter, which stops the cycle while keeping your Neutron Shark. There are really fringe, interesting stuff like that.
Yeah. Like
if you really want the Dexter to attack something, but you need to keep that captured amber, you can play a Dexter, or you can attack with your Dexter. He dies. He goes on top of your deck. You play a Wild Wormhole. the Dexter comes back out. You get to capture that amber.
Yeah. Well, and then with what is it? Is it Swen the Fence that takes captured amber and puts it into your stockpile? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah. So like that's a good combo with Dexter.
Yes.
I do.
Yeah.
I have a deck that has Swen the Fence and Dexter in it, and that's a pretty decent thing, you know.
Yeah, I lost that one with fence. Yeah, that's a card we'll talk about when we get to Shadow.
So yeah, I didn't mean to, I'm just saying. I'm just thinking of combos
no, absolutely.
for Dexter. Yeah, because
but that's the problem. You have to like struggle to find things that work with him.
And then there was something I had in that deck too that does, you know, you could destroy your own creature. So then I would put him back, you know, so then you could repeat it a few times with the capture and transfer. So it's not bad. But yeah, but you're right. He seems odd in the set.
Yeah, he's really weird. He just doesn't work well. When I'm like looking for a Logos deck, if I want to just buy a Logos deck, I try to find one without Dexter in it.
Yeah. Now, what are your thoughts on Titan Mechanic? So basically, he's a creature. He's got 6 power. While he is on the flank, each key costs -1 amber. So that's for you and your opponent.
I've had games where he's amazing, where I've made it so that my opponent's keys always cost 6 and mine always cost 5.
Yeah,
by manipulating the flank part of it.
Yeah, he's a good combo with the disc creatures that make your opponent's keys cost +1 or 2, right? Maybe it's not disc. There's another card that your opponent's keys cost 2 more.
Murmuk?
Or 1 more. Yeah, maybe it's Murmuk. Yeah.
It costs 1 more.
Yeah.
Untamed creature, 3 power.
Is that yeah, I feel like there's another one too.
Oh, there's plenty of things.
Yeah.
Like this has the what was it? No. You're talking about creatures. Because out of Mars you have Jammer Pack.
Yeah.
Which is an upgrade which makes your opponent's keys cost +2.
Yeah. Maybe I'm thinking of that. But so maybe it's Murmuk. Because that's always it is Murmuk now that I think about it, because that's that deck I have with the 2 in it. It has this Titan Mechanic as well, so I'm reducing mine to 5 while making Nick's 7 right after the reduction because I have 2 Murmuks out.
Yes, well, mine would cost 6, so it would be interesting. Like yours costs 5, you forge a key, and then you put a Murmuk next to it, and suddenly my keys virtually go up 2.
Yeah,
because they don't cost 5 anymore; they now cost 7.
Yeah.
There's really interesting stuff you can do with Titan Mechanic, and because you are in control of it, you can turn it on and off.
Yeah, I find for me anyways, this is one of the things I struggle with a lot in Keyforge. I feel like I'm okay at the game, and I've got a lot of the synergies down, and I can see things, which I'm always happy with. And I say it that way because I always struggled in Magic and other card games to see. I mean, Nick knows, he's played with me long enough. Like,
see the lines of play.
To see the lines of play and the strategy behind stuff. Like, I've always struggled with that. But with Keyforge, I really have like a grasp of it. The only thing I always struggle with is the flank, flank mechanics. Yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah.
like
making sure your creatures stay on the flank that need to stay on the flank.
And then thinking far enough ahead to be like, oh, I don't want to play him yet because I need to put this guy, I need to put like Shadow Self in first and then the flank. And you know what I mean? And then I'm like, snap, I played that wrong. I got to go back,
Well, that's what they've always talked about with Keyforge is knowing how to play your deck. Like, where you put a creature on the flank, you might have to think of what other creatures in your deck that you're going to need to play later. So you need it to go here or here or here.
Yeah.
So like you might have a Shadow Self and you have a creature that go next to it and it'd be good, but you know that down the line you have a card that really needs to be next to the Shadow Self, so you hold off on it.
Right. Yeah. So that stuff like creature placement, that's my new thing that I've got to work on. You know, but I think too the other thing right now is I'm cycling through decks trying to figure out my top 3 still, and so I don't know each of my I know 1 or 2 of my decks really well, but I don't know the newer ones that I've been cycling through, and so it's just that's one of my things. Like I've been picking up on all the other stuff. It's just creature placement and like when to place creatures is now becoming my new
area that you're trying to become
personal achievement type thing. Self-improvement. That was the word I was looking for.
There's a lot of things to consider in this game because unlike like in Magic, you always have to take in consideration the cards that are in your deck and what you want to be doing later. In Keyforge, I feel like it's more so, just because
Yeah.
one, you're likely to see those cards, and you're always cycling through your decks, so those combos become very much a reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
So one last comment that I want to talk about, yeah, is effervescent principle, like Logos's main amber control card that I absolutely love. So it's an action, you play it. Each player loses half of their amber rounded down. This is super powerful because again, you're in control of it, so you can manipulate it.
Yeah. You gain a chain. You know, I used to think.
Oh yeah, you gain a chain too.
Yeah, I used to think that chains aren't as bad as I originally thought that they were when we first started playing. Like I was like, oh boy, I don't want to gain a chain. That seems real bad. But then it's like, meh.
They're annoying and they have an effect, but you still draw a lot of cards and you still have to cycle through your deck pretty well.
Well, yeah, there's that one card, I think it's this, where you destroy all creatures and you gain 3 chains. And it's like,
Gateway to this.
yeah, I mean, I've maybe found one scenario. I'm trying to think of where we were playing where I was like, oh yeah, that was worth it. Most scenarios, I'm like, oh, this has got to go. No, archive or discard. Like, I don't even want this card. Like, it just doesn't seem worth the pain.
Yeah, the board wipes are situational, but when you're in that situation, you really, really need that card. Otherwise, you tend to lose.
Yeah, I forgot who it was against, but like I think there was like my opponent had like 30 creatures out or some stuff, and then I got that card. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is worth it. Let's wipe this out. And I had like 2 creatures out, you know, and so or like I find that Sanctum ramps up really quick. With creatures and like and then sometimes you can just play Sanctum like 4 or 5 times in a row without playing any other cards and just continue to play Sanctum, and they do all this work. I'm sorry, I'm getting off, but I was just talking about chains and board wipe. So yeah, this chain on Effervescent Principle doesn't seem as bad. Like it feels well worth the chain. You're like, hell yeah, I'll take that chain.
Well, it not only restricts your draw for that turn.
For that one turn, yeah.
So you get the chain and it goes away immediately.
Yeah.
So moving on, let's talk about some uncommons and rares.
Sure.
We're only going to touch on a few of them that we really like. I do want to talk about the Novu Archaeologist.
Okay.
I don't have a lot of decks with him anymore, but he is really powerful. There was a game you and I were playing.
Yeah.
So he's 4 power, and as an action, you can archive a card from your discard pile. So I would use him to archive my Effervescent Principle so that then I could then play it on you and I could keep you down on Amber for a long time.
Yeah.
Granted, this is when we were archiving incorrectly. Or I was archiving incorrectly.
Yeah.
Because I missed the part where it's just like you can only pick up your archive when you choose your house. So I was like archiving things and then playing them immediately. Yeah. I was just picking up my archive because I thought that you could pick up your archive at any time as long as you could just pick up your archive at any time. So important thing to know about archiving, you put it down and you can only pick up your archive. You have to pick up your whole archive when you choose your house. So at the very beginning of your turn. Are there any cards you particularly like in the uncommons and the rares?
Yeah, I think like the uncommons, they start to get a little bit more into there's some odd like dichotomies with them as far as like dimension door and interdimensional graft and stuff. Like those seem interesting, where before you weren't really messing with your opponent a lot, you were kind of catching up, and then all of a sudden there's like these pretty strong cards where they start messing with the opponent, and you're like, oh, okay, you know, like for instance, dimension door, for the remainder of the turn, when it comes into play, it's an action. Any amber you would gain from reaping is stolen from your opponent instead. Like that's pretty crazy. And then the dimensional graft, interdimensional graft, it's an action. And when you put it in play, if an opponent forges a key on their next turn, they give you all their remaining amber. Like that one's real strong when people get up to, like, do those like 10, 12, 14 amber moves, you know, and then they're about to like, so that's good. It's just interesting that it's minimum the kind of interaction with your opponent with Logos as far as their amber's concerned. But when they do it right, and it feels real good.
Yeah, Logos feels like as you move up through the commons and rares, they're the same effects as the commons, but they're more powerful and more situational. So like Sloppy Lab Work, which is one I really like, same thing as Lab Work, except you have to discard a card. Well, there's situations where discarding a card is really powerful.
Yeah.
Like it's a card you wanted to discard anyway because you didn't want to play it.
Yeah.
And this just lets you do it outside of the house.
Yeah, it's funny because when I first saw that one, I thought it was a negative thing. But now that I've played more, it's really become a more positive thing because I now that I understand the game more, and as you play more, you understand that there's just certain cards for that particular game that you're playing that you're probably not going to use, and you just need to get rid of them. And so the discard becomes much stronger.
Yeah, cards that they can be good, but at the moment in this game or against this particular opponent, like something out of something super situational, like we'll talk about a Logos card, Osmo Martianologist, who he's too powerful. He's a rare. He's too powerful, elusive. When he fights or reaps,
he's too power or he's too powerful.
Too power. He's not powerful at all.
I was like, whoa, he's way too powerful. He's got to go.
It's heal 3 damage from a Mars creature, or stun a Mars creature.
Yeah.
So he is useless if your opponent doesn't have Mars.
Yeah.
He's just a 2-power elusive dude. And so this would be a good card to just get rid of with Sloppy Lab Work. To just discard. It's like I don't want to see him. I want to draw a better card. Let's see. You had to talk about Time Traveler. I do not have a Time Traveler deck. I've never played with Time Traveler, but he is super powerful. I know there was a post. It's probably changed by now. There were 10 decks.
Is he an uncommon or a rare?
He's a rare.
Okay.
There were 3 decks. No, there were 10 decks that were level 3 power, which means you would play the deck and it won enough to get up to a 3 power deck.
Yeah.
All of them were shadows except for 2. And the 2 that were not shadows both had Time Traveler in it.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is because Time Traveler is really good at offsetting chains.
Yep.
So during those chain bound events, you start the game with more chains as you play more and more. So to get to that level 3 power is really difficult. But if you have a Time Traveler, it can just offset those chains.
And then he comes with help from future self, right?
Yes, he does.
And so what does that do?
Oh yeah, let's talk about what Time Traveler actually does. So Time Traveler, creature 2 power, gains you an amber.
Mm-hmm.
When you play him, you draw 2 cards. Super powerful. Action, you can shovel him into your deck. And then it has a fixed card that always comes in. It always shows in the deck with him. It's called Help from Future Self. Action, you gain an amber, and then you a play ability, you search your deck and discard pile for a Time Traveler, reveal it, and put it into your hand. And then you shuffle your discard into your deck.
Yeah.
It's insanely powerful because you play a Time Traveler. Next turn, you then sacrifice them. You play Help from Future Self. You drew 4 extra cards. That's really good.
Yeah.
Or if you have multiple Time Travelers in your deck, it doesn't matter if he's in play or not.
Yeah.
So I'm looking through the Logos rares and the commons, and like there aren't a lot that I absolutely love.
So I saw this Knowledge is Power once.
Yep.
I've never had it. I saw somebody else play
I have
it.
a deck with it.
And so basically what it says is it's an action, and when it comes into play, you choose one. Either archive a card, or for each archive card you have, gain 1 amber. That's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
I mean, it was situational, and like you have to have the combo where you're like archiving cards, and then you can just gain a bunch of amber.
Even if you don't have the combo, just being able to just play it and archive a card is still pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Which is the only way I've ever used it. I've never gained amber off of it. I think the deck that I have, the only form of archiving is that card. So it literally can't do anything. Reverse Time is a really, really interesting card. So Reverse Time, you gain an amber action. Swap your deck and your discard pile, then shuffle your deck. So I've had situations where I've had this in my hand and I played like 3 cards that were good, and I wanted to play them again. So I play reverse time. Those 3 cards become my deck, and my discard pile, my library becomes my discard pile. So I just then draw those 3 cards.
Yeah.
So Logos is definitely a house where you do really interesting stuff. It's just not the most powerful house.
No, it needs to combo for sure. You know, because like I feel like Sanctum is one of those houses that you can just play. Like you literally could just play Sanctum.
It's actually interesting when we get to them because you can and you can't.
Yeah, it depends.
But we'll talk about that when we talk about Sanctum.
But yeah, anyways, so Logos needs support from other stuff to kind of make it work.
Logos is support.
Yes, for other stuff, right?
For other
I'm
stuff.
sorry, reverse that. It needs other houses to
you're
get
right.
it to
But it needs support because it is support.
Yes, yeah. Oh, is there anything else?
I don't think so. I mean, general thoughts on Logos is it's just like it's really powerful, but it's not powerful on its own.
No.
Like it's basically like combo deck stuff.
Yeah.
It's just like it makes your synergies and your combos stand out because you can get to them. Because there's sometimes you have decks and you have these really powerful combos in them, but you never draw them. Logos is all about getting to them.
Yeah, I agree.
And when you find like one half and you've archived the other half of that combo, well, now you have it all.
It is, yeah, I will say with some of my decks where it's like if there's some combo stuff in like another house, it's always comforting to know that if a Logos is in that deck too, because then you know you're going to be able to get to it.
Yes, because that's what I like. I like Logos a lot, but it needs the right pairing. It needs
Agreed.
the right houses and the right cards with it. Because there are definitely Logos decks where it just doesn't. The deck doesn't do much because the Logos is the most powerful thing going on.
Yeah.
And the other 2 houses just don't do anything with it. I actually have a deck like that. That's we played it on stream before. That's Swag in the Bag.
Yeah.
And then there are other ones that I have where like the other 2 are really powerful, and then my Logos is really junky, and so it's just like I only ever play Logos because it's the only thing left in my hand. It's the only thing left to do, and I just try and get them out of there so I can get back to the other things that do things.
Yep. All right.
So yeah, that is House Logos.
Cool.
So join us next week. We're going to be talking about Mars. I love Mars. I know a lot of people really hate Mars.
Yeah, for me it's just confusing. So yeah, it'll be good to talk about.
So next week we're going to try and clear up some of that confusion.
Yeah.
When we talk about Mars. So until next time, take it easy, everybody.
See you later.
This has been a Fifth Trooper production.